I'm sorry?
No, please continue, Prabhu.
I'm sorry. I'm going on quite a lot here, Prabhu, and I don't want to
No, this is
be
perfect.
sort of,
On, please do keep going. Yes.
but yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, having an environment where the devotees don't have to consider those things and be constantly focusing on economic development in the outside of utilizing the land. Economic development is there; it's in the land because everything comes from the land anyway. It's just that we have, society has gotten away from such a big disconnect, because of technologies. So, yeah, I mean, that's the idea. It's just like, you're having a discussion in previous meetings about varnasrama. In order to have varnasrama, we know we need, first and foremost, we need all the different varnas and all the different ashrams. But first and foremost, you need some qualified brahmanas who are pure in consciousness, pure in heart, and can live a simple life like that, and create a simple environment for them where they're protected, where they can actually truly, they are experiencing Krishna and getting direct guidance from Krishna. We have that through Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's books, of course, but just actually start living that lifestyle we need, and it's a challenge. It's a very big challenge because even so, we have so many devotees all over the world. Still, I see what is the only quality that's left in this age of Kali Yuga. Which leg is the only leg of the bull which is left?
Honesty.
Truthfulness. And even that is practically gone. So it's like, what is the quality of a Brahmana, of a real pure, fixed up, qualified Brahmana? What the qualities in Bhagavad Gita, right? Truthfulness is the top of the list, right? So even in our ISKCON society today, the movement that Srila Prabhupada started, you find someone who is truthful. The institution is full of lies. It's full of lies. They're full of cheating people. They're cheating everybody, and it's full of cheaters and blind followers, um, and that's you got to find someone, and you have to find a generation, up and coming generation, or train. Of course, the training. Srila Prabhupada always emphasized the training must be there, and you have to train them. It has to be in an environment where they can really connect, uh, with Krishna and the Shastra and the scriptures and the process of devotional service, but in an environment which is conducive to that. And it has to be protected, of course. It has to be protected so carefully, because the level of exploitation in the world today, both outside and even inside Srila Prabhupada's institution that he started, is rampant, on so many levels. So I'd say, and it all comes back to finding people who understand, in my opinion, who understand how valuable this type of a lifestyle is, and how much more valuable it will be in the future. And that's and it's also becoming every day more and more of a necessity. It's becoming urgent. And I know you yourself, Prabhu, are trying in so many ways to do that yourself, and to impress that on other devotees. I don't know something specific. I mean, basically, that's where my consciousness is at. I see that is going to be the solution for a new society. I believe everything is going to collapse, just like Srila Prabhupada said, and I can see it practically happening more and more. And after that happens, then just by the principle of necessity, many people are going to, they're going to want to live that kind of a lifestyle. there's a lot of devotees in the institution that don't even believe that there's going to be a third world war. I don't know what they're wearing, colored glasses or something, but if they actually open their eyes and look at the way society is going, then it's almost what Srila Prabhupada's words are prophetic. They're coming true more and more and more. So it's going to be necessary. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times. Necessity is the mother of invention. So people will be forced. People will be forced to take to the natural way of living, because it's all going to implode. So I don't know. Please, you can say something yourself, Prabhu, and other devotees there.
Yes, thank you very, very much, Prabhu. This is wonderful what you explained for the last 50 years of hard-earned wisdom. And I see that you are like living the life, what you are preaching. What I was thinking is now if we can open it up for questions, whoever has anything to ask, further clarification, doubts, they can go ahead. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So please, devotees, please do have a discussion. In this session, no, today discussion, I was hoping we can discuss what the concept is, not the challenges so much, because the next week, we can go through the challenges, and that's what we would be doing more. But if this week we can try to understand more from Prabhu why and what Srila Prabhupada really means by this. What are the different components? What does it mean by self-sufficiency? Okay, please open it. Please give your comments or queries to Prabhu.
My understanding of what Srila Prabhupada meant when he said that, is quite clear. It's self-sufficiency is the way to solve our economic problem. Of course, getting to that point of being self-sufficient, of course it's not easy, but it is the solution. Devotees have to come together somehow and find ways to acquire the basic necessities so we can start living the life and setting an example, for up and coming generations, especially, so that they will see that, the value of this way of life.
Unmute.
So one question could be, why is this kind of lifestyle a good way of living, especially in Kali Yuga, or for this time? So why is because now we have comfortable lives, technology is there. So why, if you go back to more simple life, seems to be more complicated in that sense, or seems to be more hard, right? So you don't have one, just I'm just saying, the normal arguments. So warm water out of the wall. Right now, you just open the tap and you get the warm water. If you have a simple life, maybe it's not so easy. Or if you have to produce your own food, I mean, that's all hard, right? So right now you can just go to the supermarket. So where are the advantages? What is the argument for a simple life?
And adding
for a devotee.
Adding to it, and the question Lord Chaitanya says, Thane sthita shruti gatam, stay in your place and hear from authorities.
Yes, Prabhu. What are the advantages over the current Western way of living? Well, for me, the current Western way of living, and I think for most people, really, if you calculate, everyone has to perform a certain amount of austerity. You cannot live in this world without performing some tapasya. Just like Srila Prabhupada explains, this human life is meant for tapasya, right? So we either perform those austerities as somewhat really as captured slaves for the technological society, and more, or we utilize and we're prepared to perform austerities to live a more simpler lifestyle. And as far as material facilities are concerned, regarding hot and cold water and families and children and having places to live, those things can be solved quite easily. And I don't have the books in front of me here, but there's, over the years, when I had my farm in Cottage Grove, Oregon, we met some people who were running a small community, and it became international after some time. It was called Aparavecho. And Aparavecho, it was a community, an organization which was promoting intermediate technologies, right? And these intermediate technologies, mostly at the time, they were directing it to third world countries like Africa, even India, parts of India, and so on. But you can build a house, a very nice house. The way to build houses where the house is actually beneficial for your health, beneficial for your consciousness. It's that the houses you live in today, even though one slaves very hard at a job to get a paycheck, and then he has to pay the mortgage on the house. The houses are full of toxic chemicals, and they're just very detrimental for one's health. So one can actually build a house for 1/10 of the price, which is very nice house, very conducive for health, and very, very advantageous for the lifestyle. And as far as understanding this principle of intermediate technologies, as far as creating a comfortable environment on a farm for families to live, is not difficult at all. The knowledge is out there, a tremendous amount of it, in different ways to build, in different ways to produce food. It's all out there. It's a question of having the desire and understanding that it's actually a more valuable way of life than this modern way of life. You're asking what is the advantage? The advantage is not only it's a much greater advantage for your consciousness. It's a much greater advantage for your pocketbook and your economic development. So yeah, it's of course the propaganda is that, oh, that way of life is so much harder. But like I was saying, which type of austerity do you want to perform? You make a choice, right? Do I want to be a slave to some job somewhere and have that, like that, and be forced in that way? Or do I want to be able to provide and solve my economic solution with some independence? Even having your own business these days is, the propaganda says, oh, you can have your own business, make millions of dollars and this and everything else. Life is going to be wonderful. Truly, from a devotee point of view, that's just another facet of the illusory energy. It's an illusion. It's a trap. And it takes us further and further away from the devotional mood of Vrindavan. So there's many advantages as opposed to living the modern lifestyle. And I know it's not easy, but nothing is easy. We're living in this material world, in materialistic society. So we have to deal with so many problems. But we have to find ways to deal with these problems which doesn't drag us so much more and more away from our our understanding, our devotional life. Otherwise, you know, it's for a devotee, it should be considered. Well, why would I want to do that? You know, we have to, what is it? We take what is favorable and what is unfavorable for our devotional service. Sometimes living in it, certainly sometimes living and existing in the modern civilization, you can chant Hare Krishna anywhere. You can be an engineer and working for a firm somewhere and doing like that, and you can still chant Hare Krishna. It's not a, chanting Hare Krishna is, you know, so sublime and so simple that we can do it in any situation. But as far as actually living a life and bringing up a family and bringing up future generations, and seeing the importance of building a relationship with Mother Bhumi, where everything comes from, right? This is the, we've so much disconnect between understanding that everything comes from Mother Bhumi. Even the technologies of today, you know, Prabhupada said one time, you know, what do you have to offer to Krishna? Nothing. We cannot give Krishna anything. He owns everything, right? He is the supreme proprietor of everything. So, you know, we're thinking, oh, you know, I get this, and I get, you know, the average person have a tendency to think, if I get a better job, if I get a better income, I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna be able to live a better life. But actually, that's not proven at all. In fact, it goes to more and more miserable condition of life. You know, the more complicated life becomes, the more we're drawn away from our devotional spirit and connection with Krishna. The more complicated it becomes. So simple living, that's the whole statement of simple living and high thinking, you know. And it's not difficult. It's not difficult to create environments. If you have the land and you have a few people that willing to perform austerity in that way, then wonderful things can be achieved. I don't know whether that's a satisfactory answer, Prabhu, for you, but it's been my experience. I've also had other businesses, and I've known some very wealthy people. Many of them have committed suicide. Their wealth didn't save them, and their you know, their material achievements didn't save most of them. I used to deal with people in Hollywood selling very expensive gemstones and such, and I made connections with many different personalities, some celebrities, so on and so forth. But they're very, underneath the show, they're all very miserable with their lifestyles and frustrated people. So yeah, so it's I do believe, I know many people don't believe that the illusion of technology and the illusion of what's happening on the surface is so alluring and so powerful that it you know, people think, oh, is it possible? When Srila Prabhupada said all this is going to be finished, it's like, you know, it's like, how is that possible? You know, I know some devotees said before, that's not possible. This is not, you know, but Srila Prabhupada is seeing this from a much, much bigger picture. He knows how things are working by, you know, he said one time, even the devotee, a morning walk in Los Angeles one time, devotee said, well, why would the demons set off the nuclear bombs, right? They would destroy everything, right? And Prabhupada said, it's not a question of what they would do. He said, Daiva Prakriti will force it to happen according to Krishna's will. So, you know, Krishna's plan, Srila Prabhupada knows Krishna's plan. Krishna's dictating what is going to happen, what has happened in the past, what has happened in the present, what's going to happen in the future. You know, Srila Prabhupada grew up in the time, you know, the British Empire in India. So he knew exactly, you know, as he became a young man and everything, there is conversations where he does talk about what was going on with the British Empire in India. So he knows the mentality of all these people. And he has said before that there's several quotes where he says that actually the world is being run by Rakshasas. And I can see that, the fact, because I've done a lot of research myself about general society and what is going on and how it's being run by the demoniac banking systems, and some of the practices that goes on is very, very much connected with the Rakshasa mentality. So when Srila Prabhupada makes such statements, he doesn't make them lightly. He because of his position in relationship to Krishna, should be taken very seriously. So when he says, it's all going to be finished, it will all implode, and the demons will fight amongst themselves, who's going to be the top dog. So this is happening. We can see it. And our artificial lifestyle will not protect us. It will not give out protection for our families. We will have to, those who have devotees who don't see the importance of simple living and high thinking in the future, and making that connection, developing that connection with the land and the cows, those who don't see the value of that, then they will be forced to comply with the demoniac plans of society, and they are very dark. They're very dark for our children and our children's children, up and coming generations. So in a sense, we must be like warriors, actually, in that regard, to find better ways to live, without abusing Mother Nature, But like I was saying earlier, everything is coming from Mother Nature. All your technologies, everything, there's that old, there's that joke, by the scientists having a competition with God, right? And they said, oh, we're so advanced, we're making so many things. So God, you have a challenge, and God says, okay, then let's have a challenge. Can you make something from nothing? He said, oh yeah, we can make, the scientists were saying like that, we can make something like that from nothing. So we go ahead. So the scientists said, okay, we'll show you how we can make something. So they go and they start digging the land and bringing some materials, right? So God says, wait a minute, that's not your dirt, that's my dirt. So you cannot, they take the scientific community, they take these basic ingredients, and then they create these objects of technology, but then they're thinking in their illusion that they have created it, but without the basic ingredients that has been provided by Krishna, they have nothing. So yeah, the more and more we study this, the more and more we can see that we can understand when Srila Prabhupada says the artificial standard of living. And it is artificial, and because it's artificial, it will not last. It will not last. So anyways, I don't know if that as whether you agree with that, Prabhu, and I'm willing to hear anything you might, your understanding also.
Good stuff,
But,
Prabhu.
Yeah, so I just brought a question for, for the benefit of the public. It was not really my question. But yeah, I have the same view on these things. So cannot really add something.
Hare Krishna.
Pradyumna Prabhu, you have a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Haribolananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu. So you have so many nice things for farm life and this community, that plain living and high thinking. So after Srila Prabhupada has passed from this world, so still many devotees, they have not accepted that thing, or what is the reason, or the leadership, they are not able to convince them. Actually they are not going for it, or if they are not understanding the thing that is plain living in high thinking is better in that farm life. So why there is it is not successful everywhere? There are no devotees. No? There are many farms in India and outside, but nobody is interested in our. Is it little austere, or nobody is showing them the right path, the leadership? What is the reason?
My understanding, Prabhu, this is back to the Krishna conscious philosophy again, which teaches us that you know the artificial standard of living, we become trapped, and even the devotees, they become trapped by economic development, and in order to have economic development, then you have to accept so many of these technologies, which drags us away. Just like there's an example, very example, with this company Monsanto has murdered, created so much terror and amongst the farmers in India. There's one very strong, she's a very strong warrior against these type of things. Her name is Vandana Shiva, and she fought the Monsanto company in India many times. And so many because of technologies. See, this is the trick of Maya, the trick of illusion. This is what it is. They come along and they say, oh, now like Monsanto, that is a very good example, right? We have got this wonderful genetically modified seeds. You won't have to work any hard. All your foods will grow without, so much more or less effort, And so the farmer is thinking, oh, if I can do that, then, it's the mood of economic development. When you connect economic development with agriculture, then you spoil the whole thing. You spoil it because, it becomes, and this is what happened in the Punjab. This is what's happening all over the world with these demoniac corporations who are introducing artificial technologies, trying to create a better situation that is already being created by Krishna himself, by God, by Mother Nature, by Mother Bhumi, already being created. It's perfect. It's perfect. But the demoniac mentality think that they can do better than Krishna. They can do better than God. So in the same way, in the institution that Srila Prabhupada started, in the same way, devotees, we have families, and we get married, so we have to somehow or other maintain our family. We're doing our duty. So then this mood of economic development creeps in, and even though there's land there, it's not being worked. We don't see that if we work the land together, if we come and cooperate, like Srila Prabhupada said, cooperate together, and you can solve your economic problem, And so it's sort of just, we're pulled away, the devotees are pulled away by economic development, by this plan and that plan, this scheme, so many schemes, and then it loses its importance. It becomes less and less important in the devotee community. It becomes like second or third. Making money becomes first, right? So I see Bhaktivedanta Manor, for instance, and as soon as they got the manor there, before that time, of course, we had the preaching center in Bury Place in London, and we didn't have a farm, Then George gave the manor, George Harrison gave the manor as a gift to Srila Prabhupada, and we got the manor, and then different things started to happen, and like in early 70s, I see, more and more we were slipping away from, we became enamored by this big mansion, and the facilities that we had, and it's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful place and everything, and but getting devotees to actually go out and work in the gardens, and because of our past conditioning, we're carrying it with us. We have to let it go and understand the value of living that lifestyle, and that has been neglected. It has been neglected, but it's been neglected because the focus has shifted. Even though the land was there at Bhaktivedanta Manor, what happened, and I have to say that, in my opinion, a lot of it is due to bad leadership. You know, leadership. If the leaders were to set the example, you know, then the other Vaishnava, the other devotees would have been, you know, they would have gone in a different direction. But more and more, and of course the Hindus were they're very charitable, you know, and they always wanted to give. So the more they gave, the more we became dependent on such gifts, right? And then more and more, one thing leads to another. And then the whole idea of utilizing what we have, what we've been given, you know, in connection with Mother Bhumi, connection with the gardens and the earth and the dirt and the wonderful plants, and growing the highest quality of food to offer to the deities, you know, it becomes secondary and third, you know. So, oh, we're getting so many donations, we're getting food from everywhere, you know. Why do we need to grow anything in the land, you know? This is what has happened more and more, you know. But it's not what Srila Prabhupada wanted. Srila Prabhupada wanted us to set an example. He wanted us to make example communities, that we were showing that this lifestyle, it can be done, you know. But I would say that the real culprit is well, I have friends who have, you know, they had land and they think, oh, you know, I can grow this crop or that crop and I can make so much money. But, you know, look out, when I first came to the United States in 1979, there was 92% small farms. And now there's less than 2%. What happened? Agriculture has been turned, farming, gardening, small farming and gardening, very personal way of living, has been turned into an economic disaster. Just a slave machine, basically, to technologies. Fancy tractors, you know, and everything has become, you know, big, giant farms, we know, and the quality of food that the people have to eat in the supermarkets, unless you pay a lot more money for better quality food, it's all rubbish, you know, all full of chemicals and factory farms and so on and so forth. And all this is going to affect one's consciousness, you know. And we're trying to protect our consciousness in order to live and experience Vrindavan, that mood of Vrindavan, Krishna and the cows. And we're trying to come to that point, right? Krishna, what was a cowherd boy and the gopis, always herding the cows, rolling in the dirt, being dragged by the cows by their tails, you know. And it's just, you know, there is really no comparison, you know. But that's, and Srila Prabhupada wanted us to, he didn't want us to be fanatic either way, you know. You have to, of course, situations required some economic development, and at the time you had to do what was needed in order to maintain the temples. But he wanted us to quickly, you know, come to the point of being able to sustain ourselves without being so much distracted by economic development. So when you take the land and then you think, oh, you think in terms of dollars, how many dollars can I make from this land? Then you miss the point, and you're not building a relationship with the land, you know. That's, I mean, the mood of Vrindavan is, you know, it's what it is. Everything is there. It's complete, you know. And I, you know, as I've said earlier, you know, none of it is easy, but nothing is easy. You know, we came to this material world, we took these material bodies, you know, and now fortunately we have some mercy, some blessings, you know, by Krishna in the form of Srila Prabhupada, came and saved us, you know, from this hellish condition of life, this demoniac society, which is becoming more and more demoniac every day. And it will, because it is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So he's saying to us, you know, he could see ahead. He could see all this happening. He knew the mentality of the people that were running the world, the society. And he knew that their level of demoniac consciousness. And he told us, okay, it's important. You need to get these farms. You need to be on the farms, okay? And try to solve your economic problem in this way. So, yeah, but it's been neglected, Prabhu. It's been neglected, and it's very unfortunate in the institution. But my opinion is that that is the culprit, is too much emphasis on economic development in the wrong way.
Shuddha Sattva Prabhu, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I have actually two questions in relation to this. Is I think maybe I would like to understand more on like the point where Haribolananda Prabhu has ended. So, by the way, Hare Krishna, Haribolananda Prabhu, and please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So, there are always, we have been into this city life throughout our life, and we have not got training into kind of a farm self-sufficiency structure. So we have been educated in a modern lifestyle where we have been trained to you know relate our achievement with the money that we have in our accounts, or our advancement based on the money that we have. So this farm structure will also be always thinking in terms of how much are we able to uh, develop and earn our livelihood better and better. So I how we will create a situation where we are like kind of more satisfied with what we have. Basically, that's what I'm understanding from the last point where you have raised, is how we that becoming satisfied is the goal. Is that what you're concluding on this particular topic, and how we will be satisfied what we are having? That is first point. So once you complete that, then I can raise. That is again a totally different topic.
Well, Prabhu, it's a good question. Um, it's not, Srila Prabhupada was not fanatical in any way. He didn't bring us a fanatical, understanding about Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is very individual and very personal, and at the same time, he wasn't radical, like, just throw something aside and jump into something else whimsically, that wasn't the point. But the point is, he wanted us to gradually develop and become more and more fixed in the understanding of that type of self-sufficiency, rather than in an industrial type of self-sufficiency, by, like you say, having an occupation and getting a paycheck and so on and so forth. So your question was, how does one switch over? How does one do that kind of a lifestyle? Well, you have to start somewhere, right? Come together with other devotees at least and start some cooperation, and to acquire the land, to get the land, and to work together with devotees and start developing that side of life, that style of lifestyle, right? That type of lifestyle, simultaneously while you're doing what you're doing, even if it's a small percentage of the time. Because even though you may have a job, someone may have a job, some occupation, someone may be a businessman, maybe it is, or an engineer, or a technician of some kind in this modern scientific, high-tech world. Still, none of this is guaranteed. Of course, nothing is guaranteed ultimately, except, our service to Krishna. We never lose the benefit of that. That goes with us eternally. But that type of your paycheck is not guaranteed. And in today's society, in today's world, if you want to keep that paycheck coming more and more and more, you're going to have to comply with so many restrictions in your life. You know, we can see that more and more and more. The authorities that are manipulating and running these modern societies want to make sure that everyone is complying with their demoniac rules and regulations. And if you don't, then they're going to have the ability very soon. If you're part of this society, they're going to have the ability very soon to say, if you don't comply, then we're stopping your paycheck. We're cutting it out. And you can do nothing about it. So if you know, having an alternative way of living is paramount, because such things are coming. They're developing every day more and more. Yeah, there's people resisting around the world, but the majority of people still are being trapped by these demoniac technologies, and the powers that are these Rakshasa demons, which are running the world, are utilizing these new technologies in order to continue to enslave the population in this way. And so you have two choices: either develop an alternative way of living for yourself, for your family, for your children in the future, or you will be forced to comply until there will be, I believe, a lot of people, more and more people are resisting this way of life, and they don't want their children also enslaved by the technologies. So there are people, one could say, in one sense, are waking up like that. But you know, unless you are pursuing, at least on some level, an alternative way of living, especially as a devotee, then you will be forced to comply to more and more demoniac rules and regulations that they're pushing on everyone. So yeah, it's not a question of you know, how does one solve the economic problem while I still have to have a job and I have to do this? And yes, you have to do that. Of course, you're doing your duty to your family, and so that's obviously a good thing. But don't be, in my opinion, one shouldn't be completely caught up in that mentality and that consciousness, thinking that this is going to solve my problems in the future. No, your problem is just going to get worse and worse. You're going to be more restricted. You're going to, you know, the advantages will become less and less, because this is the way the world is going, and it cannot continue that way indefinitely. It will come to an end. So when Srila Prabhupada said, even many years ago, when he said, "Oh, it will all be finished," you know, the devotees look, "Oh, that was 50 years ago, and it's still all going," you know. Srila Prabhupada sees it from such, like I mentioned earlier, you know, his view is the macro, you know, it's a macro view, because he's in touch with Krishna, and so he could see how things would develop, and you know. And they're developing just like he said. You know, life is becoming more and more, we're becoming more and more trapped by having to have a particular occupation, by having to work harder and harder. You know, many people have more than one job, more than one occupation, just in order to maintain. It's not going to get any better. So trying to inspire ourselves and inspire others and be inspired by others to take up this challenge of Srila Prabhupada's to develop these communities is it's necessary, and it will be necessary more and more in the future for all of us as individuals and all of us who have families and so on. So I don't know whether that's a satisfying answer for your question, Prabhu. I don't know, but
Yeah, actually, it it I don't know how it has satisfied me, but one thing I really liked your point was life is going good now, but what is the guarantee it will be continuing to be the same, right? So that is actually I think this has this is really striking me to really think actually what you're saying is right. We are living paycheck to paycheck and thinking that, but we are totally dependent on their mercy, right? As long as they are desiring and things are continuing, there it is going on. So another question I had was with relation, which was more related to the, like when you are doing this um, more simple living, high thinking life. How did you? What do you think about the kids? Like, was making them understanding about Krishna conscious or life was easier because uh, outside your, and like, because if you're living in a community like farm community or something, or you have your own place, you are very you're not interacting with the outside world much, right? So what do you think, how it has positively affected, uh, or uh, in a way how it has helped you in raising the kids more Krishna conscious? Because ultimately one desire of most of the families have is, you know, kids also become Krishna conscious.
Okay, Prabhu. You know, Krishna conscious, when you become a devotee, of course, we learn very clearly, very nicely, Srila Prabhupada's instruction about the importance of our sadhana. Sadhana has to be there in every situation. Sometimes the situation is not as conducive as it might be, you know, to practice our sadhana. But the sadhana should go on, even it may be, you know, not complete. It should go on every day. Should, you know, so this is, and whether you're in a household of life or some other um, ashram or status of life, you know. So even though when I left the institution in 1981 with my family, because I was very dissatisfied with what was happening to Srila Prabhupada's institution, after going through so many battles with my godbrothers, trying to stop and trying to get the people to understand what had happened with this whole guru issue and everything. But so many things. But we tried to, you know, association is important, but you have to have the right association. Prabhupada once said, there's a letter to Jamuna where she's asking him that, it's a question to Srila Prabhupada. She asked Srila Prabhupada, she says, well, Srila Prabhupada, some of the devotees are saying, because she was living outside of the temple at the time, and she was asking him, when devotees are saying that we are in Maya, that, you know, we don't have a relationship with you anymore because we're not in the institution, right? So Srila Prabhupada said, which, you know, if you have 2 or 3 people which are compatible with your devotional service and your sadhana, then you can make progress. But if you have 2,000 which are not compatible, then it won't work, you know? So you don't need a lot of devotees. You just need association of the right kind of devotees, like-minded devotees who understand the goals, and, you know, and they understand each other. And when we had our first farm in Cottage Grove and our second farm, which we had up in Washington State, still, you know, we tried to make a sincere, it wasn't always perfect, but we tried to make a sincere effort to do our sadhana every day, kirtan, reading, you know, prasadam, of course. And this was just a regular thing, became very regular, almost. And it should be like that. It's like, oh, I can't, you know, I get to the point where, oh, we didn't do this. Oh, we got to do this, you know. We missed it if we didn't do it, you know. So this is our it has to become. And then even though you don't have a big temple around you and hundreds of devotees, and I already went through all that to a large degree, and I saw that, you know, in truth, our Krishna consciousness is with ourselves and with our relationship with Krishna and our relationship with our spiritual master. And you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that if I have 200 devotees around me, I'm going to be more Krishna conscious than having 2 devotees around me. It all depends on compatibility, you know. And so we were able to, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and by doing the sadhana, our sadhana, trying to make an effort, like I say, even though sometimes it was, you know, it had, you know, it wasn't completely perfect, still, you know, we had our past conditioning, and everybody has weaknesses. Srila Prabhupada said one time in a letter that I wrote, I think it was a letter, a conversation, but no, it was a room conversation. And he said, you know, devotees have come, you know, so kindly to help me with my mission. Sometimes there's some past conditioning, you know, some past habits, you know, I said, you know, but they will all go away. And he said, it's important thing. He said, weakness is not a disqualification. He said, but if you cheat, you'll never reach the goal. So it's a very important statement for me. That's one. Very, very important. So it's better. So it's, you know, it's not when you, like you were asking, how do you do it, living outside the movement and everything. The movement is a movement. The institution was started to help devotees, to help them, not to hinder them, right? So Srila Prabhupada, there's so many examples and so many letters and so many lectures where Srila Prabhupada is explaining about what happened with the Gaudiya Math. And he so humbly says, we shall not let this happen. Please don't let this happen to our institution, you know. And so in the same way, you know, it doesn't matter. You have a big institution. If the right consciousness is not there, the right understanding, you know, which that's the only way you're going to be able to continue your Krishna consciousness in any situation, you know. Association means, right, that you are helping each other, you're cooperating together, you enliven each other, you inspire each other, and you learn humility, the key quality. You learn humility amongst each other, amongst Vaishnavas, respect, you know. This is what, actually humility, the quality of humility is the most important quality in Vaishnava living and Vaishnava understanding. If we don't have any humility, then we cannot respect each other in the proper way, and we will become, familiarity breeds contempt. I've seen it even in the institution in so many places. Familiarity breeds contempt, the wrong kind of association, and you know, and it ends up creating a more complicated situation, and then that becomes a big distraction. But we, you know, you try your best sincerely. Prabhupada always said, like, just sincerely, you know, Krishna is in our heart, right? In everybody's heart. So he knows if we're sincere or not. So, but because of in the institution, you know, because of like I was explaining earlier about economic development, and because of, you know, when I first joined in Amsterdam, it was in the city, right in the middle of the city of Amsterdam, but it was still very simple, and there was only like 12 devotees, and we could relate to each other on a very personal level. You know, when you have 200 devotees, you know, oftentimes many devotees just get lost. You know, they don't know what's going on, what's happening, and so it's Krishna consciousness is personal, and we have to always be vigilant about not letting it slip into the realm of impersonalism, because that is everywhere in the world today. Everything is so impersonal. And even in agriculture and farming and self-sufficiency, like I said before, when I first came in 1979, 92% small farms. And the farmers, and you know, and even though there's still a lot of farmers markets around, at least in this area where I am down here in North Carolina, still there was so much more at that time, and people will relate on such a much more personal level. You know, small farms cooperating with each other, and having a better understanding of the land. You know, and then of course after the Second World War, the demons began to implement their plans. The demoniac nature began to implement their plans very vigorously with artificial means of trying to increase the production of food crops by chemicals, the so-called Green Revolution, which was such a big lie. But anyways, I don't want to stray from the subject of the question that you asked, Prabhu. But it's how do we do it? Well, you know, we just try to be sincere, and we try to continue, you know, and we have a desire to serve Srila Prabhupada and please him, and so we, you know, we continue our sadhana every day, and more, you know, we learn, you know, and we learn how to how to continue, and we also get more and more realizations of what Srila Prabhupada meant by his statements, you know. But like you were saying, your previous question, economic development, it's, you know, it's not easy. I don't say any of it is easy. It's not like, oh, you know, no. It's, no matter which way we try to live in this material world, we're going to have to perform some type of austerity. Just to do our duty, we have to do that. So, and because the technologies and the modern, you know, it's all dragging us away from that. No, life should be easy, you know, you just press a button here and there, you know, and everything just, you know, manifests. It's so illusory. It's, you know, it's unbelievable. But I don't know, Prabhu, does that give you
Yes, Prabhu.
some understanding?
Yeah. Just if you can also enlighten us more about raising kids in a farm. So like you, how you would inculcate them, because there is always like farm life, how it helps the kids, like they are more involved in the farming activities, or they are still working on their education only, and they are not at all involved in any of the farming aspect, or both goes hand in hand. How?
You know, the whole point is, as I was saying earlier, trying to describe earlier, that if you have some land, then try to provide all your necessities of life from the land, and it will become more and more obvious and abundant. The abundance will be there, and you will very quickly. Oh, this has happened to us many times. You know, Krishna is so perfect in his creation that you take one seed and you put it in the ground with devotion and sincerity, and you treat the mother Bhumi in the right way, the seed sprouts and gives you 10,000 more seeds. You know, this is the perfect design, Krishna's design. How it's so wonderful, and so, excuse me. It's so wonderful in that way that you know, your economic problem can be solved. So the idea is that if you have some land, even a small plot of land, you can start growing your own food. You can start doing that, even if you don't have to do it full time. If you can do it a small part of the time, and see how wonderful Krishna's design is, you know, how you can, you could plant a seed and it grows into a big tree, and on the tree there's 10,000 more seeds, so there's no shortage. It's an illusion to think there's shortage. This is the propaganda that we're being conditioned to think as we're growing up in this materialistic society. Krishna has provided everything. So your question, if I understood it clearly, you were asking how does one make the transition, or?
No. My question is about the kids, Prabhu, about the children. So as you
About the what?
Children, Prabhu, about the kids.
Oh, the children.
Yeah.
Oh, our children. Yes.
So
yeah.
I was just wanted to understand how easier was it, or how difficult was it to raise kids in the farm, and basically not just the farm side, but also wanted to understand like about how to raise them with the awareness of becoming a devotee, or like is that for them transition like becoming a devotee was much easier. Means it may not just corresponds to you, but Hari Kirtan Prabhu also, if he's there, so maybe how do you see that happening?
Yes.
Versus what you have in the modern cities life, what we are living in.
Yes. Well, because my wife was another thing that's also very important. We homeschooled all our children, from birth. They were all born at home, natural births, and we all homeschooled them from birth. So they were all homeschooled, and it was for them, it became, this is part of our life, to go out and help, pick the fruit and pick the vegetables, and we did go to some farmers markets to, just sell off extra food, because once we established our farms, like I said, the miracle of Mother Nature is there's so much abundance. And when you've provided for your own family and you have extra, then you can take that extra. So my children grew up in that environment. My wife was a Gurukul teacher when I met her in France, and of course I was doing the agriculture there. So Krishna's arrangement, there was somewhat of a situation, but anyway, it happened that Krishna brought us together, and we had the same goals, and we also were experiencing the same disappointments about what was happening in the society. But our children, because they were homeschooled, then they weren't so much conditioned by the propaganda, because you can see the difference between homeschooled children, even non-devotee homeschool children, the difference between them and the ones that are going to public school. The public schools are full of propaganda, and basically it's not good. It's not a good propaganda. It's not good for them. It doesn't encourage them to become strong in their faith, because that's not what general society wants the population to be. They want them to follow their program. There is, of course, for myself, it goes a lot deeper, because I've researched a lot of different things which are going on. Like I don't know, I cannot speak for your situation and your children, of course, in your family. If you have children, I'm sure you're doing the best that you can, but that was the situation with us, because so our children, and then of course, because we had, the holy name and our sadhana every day, even if it was irregular, still, it became habitual. It was a habit. So we had to, and I never kept anything from my children. What was going on in the society, in the ISKCON society, and of course in society in general, I even from a young age, I didn't keep anything from them. So they grew up knowing and being aware of these things, where a lot of so many unfortunate my godbrothers and up and coming generations in the institution, the ISKCON institution, are not they don't know the history. They don't know what happened. What is the history of ISKCON? What is the real history of ISKCON? And what did Srila Prabhupada really want for his movement? You know, how did he really want it? It's all there in his books and in his letters, but a lot of it is being changed. And so it's unfortunate for many up and coming generations that they don't get the right understanding. But going back to how we survived, that's basically what it was, Prabhu. You know, we more and more, because I was very much attracted to having a relationship with the land from a young age. And then, of course, I met my wife on the farm in France. And then from then on, we just continued in that consciousness, you know, in that line of a future direction. And that's basically what it is, you know. We understood, we decided that, you know, this is a better way of life. If you look around you, if you actually experience the living on a farm, if you experience your relationship with the land, actually doing it, putting your hands in the dirt, feel the dirt, watch the vegetables grow and the fruits come on the trees and everything. Once you do that, and then you go back to the life where, you know, into the city or something, and then, wow, what a comparison you have. It's like, there's no comparison. It's like, you know, the quality of life is so much more superior, you know. So, and my children, I taught my children that they had those experiences, and as they grew up, they realized, yeah, you know, this is a better way of life. We have better food, we have better air, breathing air. We have, you know, we have a better way of living altogether, you know, because they saw the difference. They had friends too, which were not living on a farm, you know, some of their friends, and they had a comparison, you know, and after some time they begin to realize, you know, that, yeah, which is the actual better way of life. And there is a lot of people out there, even though they're not per se devotees, still they are, you know, teaching their children and learning them how to appreciate an alternative way of living. But of course, having friends and community is always, you know, is always desirable. It's always nice. But it's a challenge. But it's like I said before, so many. It's you have to decide, you know, what kind of challenges do you want in your life? For us, we decided that, you know, we want to try to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desire, and at the same time protect our children for the future, what is coming, and give them a better quality of life, better quality of eating, you know, of living. Everybody has to eat, everybody has to have shelter. So we try to impress upon them. And we have many books, and they're all big readers. We have many books on self-sufficiency and different lifestyles. And because we were living it, we met other people also that were trying to live the lifestyle. So we interacted, and you know, you get inspiration from so many different ways. So I don't want to describe this in such a way that, you know, if a person hasn't had this experience, or, you know, their life is going to be, you know, not going to have a better quality of life. There's always, you know, you're a devotee yourself, so you've come to Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, and you have to, I guess, if you get a chance to experience it a little, you know, and then you have a comparison to make, you can make a nice, intelligent comparison, you know, and in that way, you know, I know society dictates, you know, you must go to school, you must get an education, you must, in Vedic culture, you know, there was a certain class of educated person, the Brahmins, right, at the top, but their life was submerged in pure love of Krishna, always meditating on Krishna, you know, and the cows and understanding, you know, the philosophy, the Vaishnava way of life. And then then further down, you have the Kshatriyas, the kings, of course, but the kings, everybody was taking, just like Srila Prabhupada, taking instruction from the Brahmanas. Srila Prabhupada explains that the Brahmanas are the head, and then, but it's all balanced very nicely. The Kshatriyas are the chest and the arms, the stomach, the Vaishyas are the stomach, and the Sudras are the legs, you know. But it's all very nicely laid out. It's not, and it's all natural. It's all natural. It's just we get away from the natural understanding of our existence, you know, and then we end up living, you know, in an artificial existence, and it really, you know, ultimately our happiness lies with Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, and we may not be perfect in that, trying to achieve that, but it's okay, you know, it's okay. It doesn't. It's just like Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. We cannot advance artificially. You know, this is also another difficulty. This is also another difficulty that I experienced in the institution. So many people trying to jump ahead. You know, we have this tendency to want to jump ahead and be more advanced than we really are. No, be yourself. Be yourself. Be natural. You know. And so Srila Prabhupada in that way, he always very much appreciated it. He whatever one could offer, you don't need to create some artificial, you know, what can I say? When it continues in that way, it eventually becomes into the realm of what is called sahaja. It's pretending, you know, that I'm more advanced, that I'm not. It doesn't matter. It's not important. Krishna accepts whatever we offer to him if we offer it through Srila Prabhupada, because we cannot offer directly to Krishna anyway. But so Srila Prabhupada is manifested, Krishna's manifested himself through Srila Prabhupada for us. And in that way, you know, it's a happy thing, you know, it's not artificial. It's not artificial. And living in the environment with nature, Mother Bhumi, living in that kind of environment and trying to cultivate that kind of environment, and it's very, very, conducive for our development in Krishna consciousness. Even right now, I'm in a situation that anyway, I don't want to go into what all the difficulties that brought us to this point here in North Carolina. But I just have a small garden. I would love to have much, much more. I am used to, even in my old age, still. Oh, excuse me 1 minute. Hare Kirtan. Haribol, Hare Kirtan.
Haribol. Are you still on the call?
Yes.
I will let you go.
Okay.
Ramananda Prabhu, you had some query?
Okay. Haribol. I'm sorry, I hope that helps, Prabhu. I don't.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Yeah. So I'm so blessed, Prabhu. Means I'm the way you are telling things. It is making me more understandable. You know, it is like, so when we say no, Prabhupada is God realized, he's pure devotee, and when he speaks, it's strikes. So I'm able to relate, like when you're telling about all these things, na, how exactly these things are. So it is, I'm reflecting, and I'm able to understand more clearly now. So thank you, Prabhu, for your time on answering my questions, and thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Ram-
Krishna consciousness is not, it's not complicated. You know, materialistic life is very complicated. Krishna consciousness is not.
Hare Krishna.
You're a little bit low in volume, Prabhu. Could you increase your volume?
Oh, okay. Is that better?
No,
Is that
Ramananda Prabhu.
Can
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Haribolananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Accept my humble obeisances.
Jai. Oh,
I
Ramananda
wrote-
Prabhu. Haribol. Good to see you, Prabhu.
Likewise. can't see you, but it was been wonderful.
Ramananda is one of my, he's the one, he's setting a good example. He's trying very sincerely up there in Canada. They're very good friends of ours, family. We're very blessed to have them, to keep inspiring us.
Thank you for the discussion, Prabhu. I don't know if you have more time or if you need to go or if the call needs to wrap up, but generally I wanted to ask something that was, I guess that's been the topic of discussion, is how when if devotees are wanting to graduate from family initiatives to cooperative initiatives, it seems that there needs to be some more formalized direction, and maybe formalized safeguards, as you experienced in more of a larger scale. You were part of a larger sort of institution where there were 200 people all in one place, and now we've had the experience of being in family life and sort of having more informal initiatives just on a single family level. So I was curious to know, and you described how you were able to keep your own family inspired and want to carry the torch and even expand on what your own initiative was. So what would be your vision for ensuring progress in the manner of self-sufficiency, while continuing to forgive and accommodate those who are not necessarily either expert or 100% convinced of the goal or the initiative or the importance of self-sufficiency, and not being sort of dragged back into I guess losing sight of the goal and just completely losing the progress that's been made. How do we ensure that we preserve what we have and make positive steps towards increasing our level of self-sufficiency, our desire for self-sufficiency, our satisfaction in self-sufficiency, and obviously our Krishna consciousness, as we sort of graduate from just family initiatives into a more collaborative effort?
Very good question, Prabhu. I think I might be preaching to the choir here a bit, but still, that there is no, my understanding is, and my experience has been, there is no really perfect solution, except you're trying to do your best, right? And with the power and the support of Krishna consciousness and Srila Prabhupada's teachings, then we know clearly that our lifestyles of simple living and high thinking that we're trying to achieve, is something genuine and something worthwhile, and something worth continuing to endeavor for, even though so many complications come up. As you know yourself, you're a family man and you have a very big family, extended family, as we have. So yeah, I don't have, there's no magic formula except continuing our Krishna consciousness and developing more tolerance and showing by that example, and Krishna knows. My understanding is that Krishna knows he's in our hearts, and that when we're trying to set that example, then, we just have to leave the rest up to Krishna in order to hope that the future generations and our families will be more and more inspired, to see the value in what we're trying to do, there is no formula that we can push forward on them other than trying to be sincere devotees and sincerely do our duty to our family, and setting those examples. It's like, you can, and in one sense you can take a horse to water, you can't make him drink, so it's like, even though we're trying to uphold Srila Prabhupada's desire, by inspiring each other in this way, it's only comes to a certain point, right? And the rest is up to the Lord, right? It's like, I mean, as you know our family, so I got to a point. It can be at certain times quite frustrating, because I would like the situation to be more enthusiastic and in line with, more pushing, is supposed to say, but it if I push too hard in the wrong direction, with the wrong mood, then I don't inspire, so it's limited, so I guess that's what I'm trying to say. In my understanding, it's limited of what you can do. We have to continue to try to set an example for our children, for our grandchildren, for other devotees, people that we meet, and you're certainly doing that, Prabhu. You're certainly doing it. You certainly making a sincere endeavor to do that. You're Can you just relate a little bit more of your question, because the microphone, I couldn't hear some of the things you were saying either on my microphone, or you needed to speak a little louder.
Yes, no problem, Prabhu. Thank you for that. No, it was just because we were sort of thinking that there were perhaps two different directions, and on one hand, we want to, we can't force, we need to inspire, but nevertheless we need to make efforts. So the question is just how to proceed in such a way that enough focus is on self-sufficiency. Enough focus is not on being complacent with the status quo in society, and with the understanding that there is value specifically to rapid progress in Krishna consciousness in establishing self-sufficient communities. And so so I was just curious to know your vision on how to practically apply a strategy to maximize the supportive elements for Krishna consciousness without getting too distracted by the modern way of living, but while simultaneously accepting the fact that we are conditioned to a lot of different degrees, even in our own children. There are a lot of different degrees of commitment and conviction to perpetuating that way of life. So how to accommodate all the different levels of commitment, and not alienating anybody, and ultimately not sort of dissolving the whole thing. But I was thinking more in terms of graduating from families to collaborative efforts among like a number of families. Is there anything? It's almost like, not institutionalizing, but when you're in a family, it's things are less formal, and then when you come together, then certain things, there seems to be a desire to want to formalize certain ideas and visions and direction, and then perhaps maybe formalize direction of resources to make sure that we don't end up in the same boat where it all just dissolves. and you know, all our efforts were for naught, because nobody ends up. We either fight too much, or
Right.
or you know, we either burn everybody out, and nobody wants to do it anymore,
Right.
because it's just all become distasteful. And so how to make sure we're on the road to progress,
Mm-hmm.
both in the support system of self-sufficiency, and ultimately in actual, you know, Krishna consciousness as it's meant to be. And you know, not having self-sufficiency overwhelm the desire for self-sufficiency, overwhelm the main goal of developing love of God.
Yes, Prabhu, that's good. You know, it's a balancing act, you know. Definitely. You know, you have to balance the realities that you have in one's life at present. At the same time, you know, we cannot control everything, you know, in every direction that a particular living, like our children, like they're growing up, they're becoming adults, you know, and one is an individual, and everyone has their desires and inclinations, you know. As Srila Prabhupada nicely explains it, that's part of the philosophy. But and he was so expert that he would take somebody's inclinations, and of course at that time, you know, we, like you mentioned, the difference between family and a larger group of devotees, or situation in the institutional idea, that was different. You know, Srila Prabhupada could take somebody's inclinations and engage them, but then they became part of the whole. But then still, there was no guarantees, as we have seen through history, that that will work out perfectly either. You know, so, but it's definitely a balancing act. We cannot, you know, we have to. I guess me, what I have decided is I have to make, over the years, I've decided, you know, what is essential for the long-term development of the family and our Krishna consciousness, and in balancing things out, you know, everybody's desires, you know, like as a father, the head of a family, as you are, yeah, so many, it's a real balancing act to understand all the members of the families and their desires at the same time, trying to keep them on the track of what you know to be the most beneficial thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd say that devotees have to come together, you know, and try to help each other, you know, so that the burden of economic development is, you know, doesn't become so great that that it becomes a big distraction from trying to achieve the very goals that we hold dear, you know, in trying to please Srila Prabhupada and become self-sufficient at the same time, continue our Krishna consciousness, you know. But I don't have any magic solution except, you know, what I've learned from Srila Prabhupada, and it's in his books, and you also have his books, and you've seen the situation, and it was a good thing the way you described it, about it, you know, the balancing between a smaller group of people in the form of a family, as opposed to switching over and being part of a larger conglomerate of devotees, or some type of institutional situation. You know, to me, what I experienced, one of the things I experienced is that the larger it gets, there's always a greater chance of losing one's individuality. And I think that's what happened a lot inside the institution, and it's still happening today, of course. But how do you make yeah, I don't know. You just have to. We just have, like you're doing every day. Also, sadhana is the most important thing. Keeping up your sadhana, and so we always try to do that, and then keeping the goals in mind. Simultaneously, we have to continue with the current situation that we've been presented with, right? We have to pay bills. We have to you know, we have a children need educating, so on and so forth. It's I don't know other than that, that's the track and that we've been on for so many years, and by Prabhupada's mercy, we're still able to chant our rounds and and continue identifying ourselves and still have a desire to remain as a devotee of Krishna. I think devotees have to find ways to help each other more and come together where we can keep our individuality at the same time, give each other more support and inspiration in trying to accomplish Srila Prabhupada's desire for simple living, high thinking. And as devotees, I think this is the most precious goal, because ultimately, like I've been speaking earlier to the other Prabhus there, that I believe that, and I'm sure you do too, ultimately, it will come to the situation where I really believe that we will be forced to do it. So it's better to, somehow or other, if we can find ways to come together and cooperate so that the burden is not too great for one or any single individual or family, somehow or other, it's yeah, we have to help each other keep that balance. I don't know if that makes any sense in relationship to your question.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think Nimai Pandit Prabhu has been taking notes of some of the essential principles that you've noted have been critical in sort of.
I'm sorry, Prabhu. Could you speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if this is better. Is this
yes,
better?
That's good. That's much better.
Okay. No, Nimai Pandit Prabhu has been taking notes as you've been speaking about some of the fundamental principles that you've cited as that are important, and it would be interesting to review them and perhaps maybe summarize just because I've really enjoyed when Srila Prabhupada talked about principles and details. Or I don't know if those are the right words, but as long as you sort of stay focused to the core principles, then the details on how to achieve that is sort of secondary. But maintaining the focus on the core principles is the most important. And I'm just wondering if maybe focusing on those core principles, what is successful. What makes one successful in a small scale? If those same principles can just be kept along throughout the graduation into small, bigger and bigger communities, as we hope that they hope we would progress to, then the details don't matter so much as long as the core principles are identified as principles of success, and then those are always you just always check in. Okay, is this principle being upheld? Is this principle being upheld? And then the ways and means are sort of secondary. But I was curious to I asked the question to see about ways and means from you, get an idea of how you would see practically some of the principles being applied, but I guess I'm having to take a step back and maybe question, like, what are the core principles? And that's why I'm thinking Nimai Pandit has taken note of some of them, and maybe you've already summarized what the core principles are, and or maybe you could summarize those and put those forward for us to study.
I think that's a good idea, Prabhu. Yeah, very could be very helpful.
Sorry, you had a picture of my forehead. I didn't realize my video was still.
Were you asking Nimai Pandit to do that currently, or?
Well, maybe him and yourself combinedly. I could look also at the notes he's been taking throughout the conversation.
You know, you're speaking about the core principles, which are absolutely foundational for us to continue as Vaishnavas, in, you know, and keep our faith strong. And you know, I was asked, you know, not such a while ago, I said, "Oh, you've been married 47 years. So how do you do it?" You know, and I said, "Tolerance, tolerance, tolerance." You know,
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say humility, humility, humility.
oh, that too, but you know, you cannot have those qualities
and
if we
tolerance
don't.
are almost the same thing.
If we don't hold those core principles like you were speaking about, if we don't hold them precious, right? Because I certainly can't. You know, the strength comes from those core principles. You know, the tolerance comes from those principles, and the understanding that really, you know, why should I be humble? Why should I cultivate humility? Why? Because, you know, I can see, because of practicing the core principles, I can see that it is definitely the most intelligent way to be, how to relate to others, to interact with the world in general and people, you know, and it's the most beneficial quality for my Krishna consciousness, you know. And so in that way, yeah, those core principles, but it, you know, tolerance. You have to tolerate, we all have to tolerate so many things. Look what Srila Prabhupada tolerated, you know. Just so when I look at my, you know, compared to what he tolerated, I think, okay, you know, surely I can, you know, do that at least. Krishna will
Prabhu,
help.
can I ask you
Yes.
something? What about Sankirtan? Like in Kali Yuga, you know, Yagya Sankirtan Praye Yajanti hi Somedasa, the sacrifice which is mentioned is Sankirtan. How does this fit into the Sankirtan mission and Sankirtan activities and Sankirtan lifestyle, Sankirtan purification?
Are you speaking about going on Sankirtan, or are you speaking about the Sankirtan, chanting of the holy names?
I mean, our whole mission is to, if we don't include others, then we'll just be stagnant, no? Ourselves and association too. So Sankirtan is like, you know, what Lord Chaitanya did, no? His movement, which Srila Prabhupada did, is going everywhere and chanting and bringing more and more people to the happy, transcendently happy Krishna conscious life. When Srila Prabhupada was instructing all these instructions, you know, at that time, 90% of his time he was spending in the cities and going on, you know, inspiring devotees to go out on Sankirtan.
Mm.
And maybe a few percentage of his time, energy, he was telling about the self-sufficiency part. So I was wondering, what is your view on that, on how the whole self-sufficiency fits into the broader understanding, the core principles of Kali Yuga, which is the Sankirtan mission?
Well, you know, my experience with Srila Prabhupada was that because he's, you know, a pure devotee of Krishna, and he could evaluate every situation according to time, place, and circumstance. You know, he gave different instructions. A general instruction was that, of course, this organization is to spread the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in order to do that, then we have to disseminate the knowledge, right, and in the form of his books, and that was the primary service to do, but he never neglected, as from my experience, I see that he never neglected other forms of devotional service. So, and he also indicated many times that, you know, Sankirtan doesn't only mean just going out on the street chanting. That is the function, going out the street so that everyone gets to hear the holy name of Krishna, all the passers-by and the fallen souls. And this is purification of society. But he also, everything has to go on in a very balanced way, so the temples had to be maintained, the cows had to be protected, the food had to be grown, so many different services. I didn't find him to be, I found some of his senior disciples who became somewhat overzealous or even to the point of fanatical, I would say, on saying that this is the only way that you can spread Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, by doing that particular function, that particular service. And any other service was somewhat, less, so to speak, not as so in that way those incidents were there. But such a personality of Srila Prabhupada, my experience was that he was very, very balanced in everything. He balanced everything out according to time, place, and circumstance. So, and I think it's just his disciples, I think because of our past conditioning, a tendency to take his instructions and interpret them in ways that we shouldn't have, really, in a lot of cases. And therefore, the balance gets upset, and one says, oh, this service is more important than this, and everything else has to be neglected, which I have first personal experience when I wrote the letter to him, and he came back and said, no, everything should go on nicely, not and then what happened, we know that what happened is it became, devotees started to have this attitude of, my service is better than yours, my service is more important than yours. And that's not a Vaishnava mentality or understanding. That's the wrong mood, because devotional service is devotional service. Just like Srila Prabhupada said one time, devotee was asking, oh, we're doing the temp, and they were complaining about making comparisons between one devotee service and another devotee service. And he would say, no, this is all devotional service. It's all transcendental, and it all pleases Krishna, And for us to make a distinction between one devotional service and another was not the right understanding, So as far as Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, that is the Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, and going out there. And I mean, I love to go out there and chant the holy names on the street. I haven't been in such a long time, but I used to do it so much with the devotees, and, going out all the time. It's such a wonderful experience, and being able to speak to people. But at the same time, you may meet hundreds of devotees out there, and then they come to the temples, and where are they going to live? Many of them are going to get married, they're going to have children. So then Prabhupada knew about that also, and he said, okay, the solution is farms. You have to get farms. And all your grihastas, all the grihastas and all the families should go out to the farms and live on the farms and start developing this vision of self-sufficiency, And that, unfortunately, it was neglected to a large degree. But I don't know if I understood your question correctly, Prabhu. When you speak about Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement and the propagation of the holy name, in relationship to what you were saying, I can't hear you.
Well, what Lord Chaitanya, what I understand from Srila Prabhupada writing is that the most important thing, Hare Nam Kevalam. So all the activities in our movement, in Lord Chaitanya's movement, is designed to bring people to chanting purely the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And so the acharyas have designed many, 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 many ways to figure out in different time, place, and circumstance how people can be brought to that platform. And in Kali Yuga, and Srila Prabhupada is coming to the West, and he is, because of so much of modern passion and ignorance, as he saw on the Jaladuta. So Sankirtan is the panacea. So I mean, it purifies the heart. It brings one gives the transcendental pleasure. The first shloka of Shikshamrita. And so that is the most attractive feature by which not only devotees can stay, get attracted away from the material complexities and attachments, but also stay in them, stay in the Krishna consciousness and not be attracted back. So, I mean, how is the farm lifestyle, how does that connect? And one can keep connected to the Sankirtan, the whole overall consciousness, which is so that the devotees living in the farm, first of all, to bring devotees to the farm, because now the Sankirtan is not going on so much, and especially the purified Sankirtan, which Srila Prabhupada had implemented to chant, to please the holy name. And then not only that, the quantity and the quality has reduced of Sankirtan, like almost diminished to almost practically nil. And then more than that, the devotees, let's say, even if that is going on, how does the devotees living in the farm communities, they keep getting purified their heart? Because as we know, in Kali Yuga, it's a age of color, the discord, fights. So how will, like Ramananda Prabhu was saying, how do we go from individual family living to cooperative living? And as I understand from Srila Prabhupada, because of Kali, we keep fighting. From Bhagavatam says that. And so the purificatory activity is the holy name, especially chanted in a congregational manner. And so how will the farm devotees also keep doing Sankirtan so that their heart keeps getting purified, and so that the children and the family, everybody don't get so attracted by the material allurements while doing so? And even if they are not, then the fights and all may not happen so much. So
Mhm.
can continue living in a, showing a good example. Otherwise, if the children don't live the parents' lifestyle, then what that example is not a good example, no, for everybody. It's not a working model, let's say. So that the whole overall, how does the whole Sankirtan consciousness can remain prevalent in devotees' consciousness even while doing because simple living is only as I understand it, it's only a support system, a stepping stone to be able to chant purely. So if you could, yeah, if you could explain from your understanding and experience, if I've said something wrong, and if how to incorporate these things into the whole vision. What was Srila Prabhupada's vision in it?
Well, I always used to see the lifestyle of simple living and following Srila Prabhupada, trying to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desires as being Sankirtan, right? Because we have to, if we make a real separation between the two, if we're chanting Hare Krishna every day, we can also set an example by the lifestyle and for when the people do come to Krishna consciousness, when you do meet people, you can bring them and explain that this is the lifestyle we live in. This is also propagating the Sankirtan movement. As of course the clearer example is when everybody is chanting Hare Krishna and going out on Sankirtan, and like we said before, giving the fallen souls an opportunity to hear the name of Krishna and become purified. But my honest opinion about what has happened is that the leaders of the institution in ISKCON and in many, they've not emphasized this idea that everything is necessary, and I've tried to emphasize it to my family. I think for most part it did sink in. but still, the attractions of conditioning and the materialistic society all around us, it's always pulling and dragging, so, but continuing our daily Krishna consciousness, and we must have explanations, clear explanations to newcomers and to people to help them understand, most of them, most of the devotees that come generally end up getting married, and having a family. And immediately then, as soon as that happens, their whole focus on now practicing their Krishna consciousness has to change. If you're a brahmachari and you're going out on the street every day doing Sankirtan, and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in that way, obviously that's a wonderful service, but unless we try to set the example, the lifestyles ourselves, and see that this is another aspect of Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, this is how I see it personally, becoming self-sufficient and trying to propagate the lifestyle of simple living and high thinking, balance the simple way of living and our Krishna consciousness, that simple living and high thinking. I see that as being another facet, another way that we are spreading Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. That's how I see it. And I constantly try to impress that upon my family and our children, our grandchildren. And I use the evidence of what is happening in the material world, because it's such a miserable situation. And so they can have some comparison, So, I mean, you're asking a question, or you're making sort of a statement that, how does one, as far as I understand, how does one balance the two? How do people on these farms, how are they actually continuing to help propagate Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement and spread the mercy to others? Well, I think we're doing it. I think it's very important. I think it's a very important facet of Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, because ultimately, what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal of a devotee is to ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. And in this world, we can see that it's written in the scriptures very clearly, and we've experienced it ourselves, that it is clearly explained that Gokul, Vrindavan, is a replica of what's going on in the spiritual world. And what is that? Krishna consciousness is so simple and so sublime. What is the ultimate goal? Is to play with Krishna and the cows, is to come to the platform of being able to dance and talk with Krishna and play with him, be his mother, be his father, be his, get his embrace and so on. These are the highest goals of bhakti, right? The highest levels, which cannot be achieved by any artificial means. But at the same time, that mood of living, of trying to achieve that lifestyle and set an example for others to experience Vrindavan, Krishna, the cows, the land, the trees, the forest, the rivers. This is where Krishna is having his pleasure pastimes. He's enjoying with his devotees, right? So, yeah, I mean, Srila Prabhupada, there's such a merciful personality that he came to the West, on the instruction of his Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, and gave this knowledge, saved so many souls. And that's Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is predicted it will go on for 10,000 years, But it's not that everyone will go out on the streets and do that form of Sankirtan as time goes on and as Krishna consciousness becomes more and more integrated into general society, and I believe it will replace general society. I believe when Srila Prabhupada made the statement that soon they will see that this Vedic culture, this Krishna consciousness will save the world. So the endeavors that we're trying to do as Vaishnavas ourselves, you with your agricultural projects and your farms, Ramananda setting his example with his family and the bulls and the agriculture, and many others also. I believe it's a very essential part of Loka Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. That's my.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for coming and spending almost 2.5 plus hours on continuously. I hope we didn't trouble you
Thank
too
you
much.
for allowing me to express myself. I hope it. I don't know whether it inspired anyone, but either way, I was expressing at least how I feel about the situations and my own desires to try to continue to serve Srila Prabhupada. I don't know how many days I have left. You know, I'm in the time of life where, what do they say? 70. Is that what they say? Something. So who knows? Maybe Krishna will let me live longer so I can still be on somewhere, and we can actually, you know, I can still continue in my last days. I don't mind dying in the field, or, you know, it's okay for me.
Here at the farm, and I'm with Hare Kirtan Prabhu to see how it can be arranged. So let's see if Krishna sanctions it. But thank you very much again, Prabhu, and thank you all the devotees. Wonderful participation. And so, Prabhu, next week, no, I was going to present my thinking of how to implement the based on what I've understood from Srila Prabhupada, how to implement all these instructions, how to get to these instructions. Because somehow or the other, it has not happened. Like you rightly said, there are so many problems. And so I've been thinking over these things, and then I'm going in some direction, and then I would like you to review it. And Dhaneshwar Prabhu was here, you know, Dhaneshwar Prabhu, right? And we had many discussions before he came, and while he was here, and over the years with many devotees. And I'd like you to review what I've been thinking with the varnasrama college. Srila Prabhupada wanted varnasrama college within, and Sankirtan and all the difficulties that you talked about today, the challenges, which is to first challenge how to attract people to come, leave the material thinking, and all the other challenges that you wrote, which are, well, I made some notes here, is that austerities are, why it is bad leaders, bad examples, wrong emphasis on economic development, too much dependence on easy funds from Hindu donations. And other things were like convincing people how to live that lifestyle. And then this artificial standard of living, which is more complicated and causes suffering, and how to pay for everything. So basically these are some challenges too. So I've been thinking certain way, and I'd like to present, and I don't know if you will have time next week, Prabhu. Same time, Saturday, 8 p.m., 8 a.m.
Yes, I can try to attend, Prabhu. At this point, I'll see what happens during the week. I have some different things, but I'll try. But I thank you for all your patience with me and making me feel that I have something of a little value to offer. Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. One. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I have to leave.
Okay.
Meeting at 11. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.